Hello and welcome to another gameplay review on the Virkayu gameplay channel. And in this one, it is my pleasure to provide you a gameplay of the ephemeral Fiddlesticks. It's been a while since we've done him, but you know what? That's because he just doesn't crop up in the meta, some kind of dominant pick. Yeah, he goes through periods of super strong, but no one really wants to put in the time to master the first clear. No one wants to play something so unique that they can't really go, fighting versus enemy junglers in a 1v1 sense, in the classical sense. But he is always one of those champions that does not care about the meta. We were a little late to the game here, and obviously the runes, let's just pop those on your screen now. Predator, which means you offset some of the scaling you might need. Again, don't really like Harvest anyway. First Strike is obviously good also. Electrocute guarantees you burst proc damage early game, which is obviously nice for early ganks, but the Predator allows you to match a bit more of the high tempo jungling that we're seeing in this current meta. Don't forget, we will discuss how to win games when you're ahead, when you're behind, how to scale, how to get through any sort of jungling environment that you might find yourself in the bootcamp. February 21st to 26th, first day is free. Signups for that will be in the description and the pinned comment. Now, our Fiddlesticks. As you would have seen, Futures Market and Predator means we will need to be active a little bit as we conduct our early sequencing and scaling. We're against the Kayn. If bot lane is late to show, which they were, pay attention to this in these videos, please. You know that he got leashed. There is always the risk. A Kindred or something like this. Wait. Okay. Make sure if that happens to you and you're not Fiddlesticks, or even if you are Fiddlesticks, smite it, please. Just smite it. Don't let it reset or you're going to screw your clear up. He's going to get a little low here, but this guy does main Fiddlesticks. He knows exactly what he's doing. He is now fresh master player. Good for him. Clap, 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 clap. Good job. There is a risk, as I was saying. Graves, Shaco, Kindred, hell, Jarvan 4. They might just do the red, get leash, and just go and steal your stuff, especially if they know you're starting on the top side. They don't really have any information from you where you started exactly. Is it Wolves Blue? Is it, we should actually just be walking around here and hitting the plant to go faster. Pay attention to that as well. Well, fumbling the words already. Oh dear. And then I carried on fumbling the words. So I was just going to say, you need to walk around here, hit the plant. It makes you go a little bit faster in terms of your full sequencing, getting to the bottom side of the map. But if you don't have that control ward start and you're going for the futures market, Toa Boots Rush, you can get Salt Boots on first back. There is this risk, so obviously be on time for the game, put down an effigy on your blue, keep track of if someone is going to steal it. And I think with Fiddlesticks it's really, really easy. He's a bit thrown this game. This is a very mucky clear, not perfect whatsoever, but it happens. Even to Fiddle 1 tricks who get Master Tier, and it shouldn't, but it does. And the thing is, you have to be able to navigate all sorts of things as a scaling jungler who might get invaded, who cannot do the classical things like a, well, like a Kayn, I guess, but more your Dianas or so. But the nice thing is you can actually match the Diana if you have a good clear. She moves up toward deep. So you can see from this, if you're watching this as Fiddle, that she moved up toward the Raptor camp there. The Fiddlesticks, now, because of these resets, is really late to his crab. We do have Fear and Smite, so we can suck that super fast. It was close. We didn't know the Kayn was showing up. Aurelion Sol is cutting down. Janna's moving up here. The Aurelion Sol puts himself. That's his own fault. At the same time, you got to watch these rotations from the bot lane. You see, yes, your bot lane has Prio, and the Zyra should not let this happen at all in terms of paying attention to the map. I don't know why she is. If that was me, I'm already in the river. I play for my jungler. It's because I am a jungler, but I really have this idea of helping Shadow with crabs and make sure those scenarios go in our favor. Now everyone's just disjointed. Like, she's zoning the Janna, which is great. Do this. And the Fiddlesticks, I like this. We full sequence down, right? We started Raptors. We know Kayn's in the area. We know he also started bot side. Let's go through the lane. Zyra can bait. Here we go. Suck, suck, suck. We force the flash. That's very nice. Ignite will do it. Samira can then flash in to make sure she gets that kill. Plants are doing the job. We do flash in to try and suck. Doesn't really work. We do get the silence, though. Janna still has her flash available, but an excellent route, which means, barrier fear. Unfortunate. What's our E cooldowns? 2-1. No. Oh, that was intense. I like that. That turned out for the better. Good job, Zyra. Nice job, Fiddlesticks. And good read on the Kayn doing start bottom up and then obviously coming on down. You would have seen Kayn at 28 CS, which means you know he did a 4 clear plus a crab. Likewise, we're 28 CS, 4 clear plus a crab. He will go into the bottom side now, and you are going onto the top side. So out of base here, do you plan on ganking top lane? So do we want Raptors and Krugs and maybe a top lane? Or do we simply want to go Krugs, Raptors, blue side, and then look to repeat gank bottom lane? Because we will be able to get 6 a little bit sooner than those games where we really don't get kills. We also have Predator ready. So, Predator ready with our Soak Boots, which means our clears are faster, and we can really do some hurt in lanes. I kind of like just going for the Raptors into the Predator gank, but it is a Kiana. So, it's not really the best ganking assessment. And when you look at our Challenger games, you'll note they won't make these kinds of double silence. They won't make these kinds of decisions, these mistakes. Because I do believe, even though he dies here, I didn't know he was going to die here. I do believe this is a mistake anyway. Because Kiana's a tough gank. You know, and Aurelion Sol just wasted himself walking into the river and dying. By making this lane worse now, the game's going to be much more difficult for him. You could easily just do Krugs into the top lane gank if it's looking good. You could just do Predator at the top lane gank and then fall back down to Krugs, Raptors, try mid lane, or just carry on sequencing. The most important part about scaling and playing a Fiddlesticks in this sort of meta is, yes, be active early for that lane gank. Get a crab. Definitely look to use your Predator as soon as you can. But don't compromise your farming. Don't make that gank too high variance. Because when you make ganks too high variance, this happens. You have Kayn kills, you give Kiana the win, you lose an objective, you just dink 5, the dude's way ahead of you now. Now, if you're smart, he's going probing into your blue side jungle and is going to yeet away your tier 2 Grump, your tier 2 Wolves, but you don't really know that. So, do you go and try and gank top, or try and steal his, or try and steal the crab? You have no information. So let's flip the switch to see. He didn't, he just went straight back to base. So maybe he was a little lower than we anticipated. Again, you don't know this in game, you see here. He slaps this, right? So he gets low, we see that in the replay, but he could very easily take this and go probing. And I kind of like the idea of making sure you have a control ward here. I don't know how much he had out of base, I wasn't paying attention to it. Just to see if we can put a deep ward on the Fiddlesticks' Grump anyway. That's how I like to play against these farming junglers, and how I recommend you play against it in low elo, because they're not paying attention too much to the sequencing, and you could argue, why did the Fiddle go Krugs? Maybe he should have just gone to Grump walls to protect that. And that's what the Kayn was banking on. So they're almost bluffing themselves out. And I do think in this situation, that would have been a better play for the Fiddlesticks. But such as it is, he went to Krugs, he entered mid lane, it was a bad decision, and now we're on the blue side. We can still carry and win this game. It's all about Predator activation and ultimate domination. Kayn, on the other hand, didn't even want to risk going into the jungle. We do have a Shen, though. So Silas obviously gets the ult, and then Shen comes through. Fiddlesticks Predator activation. Nothing. Kayn topside, we see this. Very good. Which means now he gets your 3rd tier Raptors, he gets your red buff. Not a good early game for our Fiddle. Not a good early game. Definitely don't look to replicate this. However, I think it's very good to look at these kinds of games, because you guys will make mistakes in your elos. I make mistakes in my games. Everyone makes mistakes in their games. How we compound that to get wins with positive adaptations is more important than a rude minion. Is more important than sort of focusing on those mistakes. Next play, next play, next play. So here the Aurelion Sol is collapsing on the red. Good job by the Fiddle to recognize that. Kiana's going to follow through here. So the Kayn is putting it in a position. This isn't a very good invade unless you're fully on communicating with your Kiana. She is going to save the day, but he should tick down and die, which he does. So we get one back. We get the red buff overall. Good play for Kiana, not so good for Kayn, and nice for the Fiddle. We do have the ult available. We can kind of try bait something out here, because Kiana's used her ult. There we go. That's what we want. Both suck, full channel, heal, sit in the AoE, burn it down, get in the plants, and we live. Beautifully done. And that's how you get back in the game. Make mistakes, you have a rough early game, yeah, whatever. Brush it off, go next play. Not next game, next play. Probably mental discussion in there, because you always will be relevant as Fiddlesticks. We have Smite, we have Sucky Suck, and we can kite out. So, well played there. Kayn, a little bit too greedy, not understanding that when you clear a ward here and we see you go up, kind of know where you are. So, we get a little bit back there. And I think I like this kind of fringe diamond master tier elo of gaming, because it makes it a bit more relatable to the average viewer, I think. Yeah, you guys can see the mistakes that are made compared to the challenger games we cover. It's kind of obvious to look in the replay and say, yeah, you should go ABC, but in game, applying that is difficult. Here, a little bit of waffling. We're waiting for the wolves. We kind of don't have too much cash monies that we want, so we're just kind of sitting around. These are all mistakes you guys are making, but this guy got master tier, which means he does a lot of other things well, and he doesn't let it ruin his game. He's always able to scale and make that impact. So, how do we carry the game? Because again, he will carry the game. Should probably put that in the intro at this point. Nice E. Keep them within the plants if you can. Sucky suck the wolves, sucky suck the grump. That's good. Let's speed it up a little bit. We do have ult again on a 40-second CDR. We do have the bottom side crab spawning RNG, which is nice. But once more, the Dragon Soul, not playing jungle this time, is pushed out of mid lane. And the wave is crashing here, which means it's not like you can sit and hold it. But we can probably do Raptors and then do just that. Hopefully Aurelion Sol can E back to lane, but Downside of not having stopwatch for Fiddle is in these particular moments when you're kind of squishy but don't have Zhonya's. Okay, they just moved up. I'd be kind of concerned, to be honest, that they might have warded if you're not really tracking all of that stuff. So just caution. Place your effigies down. There we go. Most likely we're going to lose a Herald here. Okay, we shouldn't be here. As I said, caution, but Shen ults us. So we suck, we get to heal, and he's taunted, and he's E'd. Auto attack, die. Just have a Shen. Again, hyper aggressive by the This is funny. I'm enjoying myself. This is absolutely hilarious. So the Kayn is trying to be hyper aggressive against a farming jungler. The Fiddlesticks isn't playing it as safe as he should. Again, Umbrella jungling. See the main channel video again, syncing up. Hopefully tomorrow, Saturday. Where if you're worried about the Kiana maybe chasing the Aurelion Sol, putting some wards down, and maybe the Herald being taken or the Kayn trying to do this invade, just skirt the edges, do the Krugs, put a ward over the wall, don't cut through. Cutting through when you fear vision and being 2v1, 3v1 is just bad. So you can kind of just hug the edges of the map here, like you did earlier, right? He hugged the edge of the bottom lane, and it worked out very, very nicely. So keep those things in mind. We do have ult available. Silas has taken ours as well. He's going to have to use it pretty soon, so he all-in engages, not expecting the Fiddle to still be around, and will get I was going to say get disrespected, but he just gets destroyed because he deserves it. Bottom side, we have here, bot lane has died. Kiana is once more onto the roam, because obviously things like a match Aurelion Sol very, very good. Janet now is going to flash for the slows, and the empowerments, and the shields, and wow, that was so difficult. Enchanters. Either way, giant, needlessly large rod, giant alternator. This guy is going for full AP scaling. Obviously, when you're building into Shadow Flame, that's the item path, but obviously I wouldn't necessarily, it's interesting. Do you build the components of your Rocket Belt, Alternator, Blessing 1, and a Ruby Crystal, or you just say basically, look, I'm going to get this anti-heal because I really need it against that Silas. I don't really think you need it against much else, but gives you a small amount of AP, HP eventually with Morello's, and he's just going full squishy, full damage. And I think if they're hyper squishy and they can kill you, the question is, can you kill them first? And I think that's the logic he's using here, although I'm not always a fan of garage sale itemization paths. We should be rotating immediately. You see a little bit delayed, but we are coming down now. Glacial Augment is procced. The Zyra has Guardian. Ugh. No. No. Just, no, I'm upset. We do have Predator that was used to get to rotation, which is nice, which is what you can do. Zyra's, that is disrespectful now. Again, there's a lot of waffling here. Looking, probing, adventuring. And that's because the game state isn't perfect for us to really flank and look for these ults. We could have just spent that time doing wolves and resetting if you have enough gold, or just full sequencing. You're trying to bait something when the objective is on the top side. You know what I mean? We're waiting for the Aurelion Sol. I don't know if we're communicating. He just goes over because he just doesn't care, I guess. We do have ultimate. I'm not a fan of just turbo waiting that long. We know that Janna just flashed as well. So we're going to get that ult into E into death. Not into the Janna, but that's fine because that's usual. They never die. We could have just done the wolves in the meantime and then cut down. Like I understand kind of waiting for the Kiana to set a trap there, but I feel like if you waffle too much as a Fiddlesticks or as a scaling jungler in these situations, not good. I don't like it. Because now, of course, the blues respawn, the Grom's going to be up a lot sooner than it would have been if you just did wolves, went down, bot made that play. And you'd sequence back to the blue side eventually from top side here. We do lose a Herald, of course. As I said, you lose a Herald. And now maybe he's in our jungle again. He's on the red. You see the particles. There's a little bit of nonchalance by the Fiddlesticks. If he does the Herald and your bot lane and your red's up and he gets global timer, then you're going to see it. But he flanks to go in. Zyra hits the stun. He hits the suck. He hits the suck again. He hits the silence. Double taunt, very, very nice. Or was that a double taunt or just a one taunt? Doesn't really matter. Oh, good grief. Oh, good grief, blue team. Oh, good grief. Fiddlesticks is eternal. Because Fiddlesticks, in a choke point, even in a game that isn't going his way, is able to do that. Now, that was with Shadow Flame Rush. So, as I pointed out, do you rush a non-mythic, or do you rush items and then finish your mythic? Component items and then finish your mythic? That's largely down to your playstyle. I don't really think, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not a huge fan of the Shadow Flame Rush. I get the logic, right? Janna, we have some Eclipse. It's gonna do good work in that sense. Let's track this. Oh, I mean, the total damage dealt is 282 here. So they were shielded and it did make an impact in that fight. But would it have been more than what you could have done with the activation, the mobility, the HP, and the damage from Rocket Belt? Only alien civilizations will know. But again, our ult is already available. We will all have Predator to rotate to this. She's able to turn it around, which is really, really good. Just make sure you're in the situation. Now, a lot of you will ask, good flash fear. There we go. Very well played. Now, in this situation, right, we have impacted bottom lane sufficiently as Fiddlesticks. So a lot of you will say, well, my bottom lane usually dies here. What can I do? The foundation. You gank them early, you be there early, you get them fed indirectly, even if they're not aware of it. And then when those scenarios happen, you rotate, you press Predator, and you get there. Because if your team dies, and if your team is unable to convert that 2v2 or 2v3, and you just carry on farming, you're coin flipping the scenario. Do not coin flip scenarios. I put a coaching VOD on the Patreon yesterday for a Kane coaching where he was farming a lot, but he was letting the lanes just be coin flipped by not being involved. Yeah, good not to ult that. He isn't the plant. And because of this, he won the game very easily because his laners were better. He had low KP. He had a lot of farm and he pushed them up and he did a good job there, but if his laners had lost those fights, you would have lost the game. End of story. And we would have had zero impact. So 715, 531, we have the highest percentage KP. Not a fan of the itemization, obviously. And now we're going into a Lost Chapter build. You know, every one of these one tricks has their own style that they play. You can try this out if you feel like the specific needless rush into the Shadow Form rush against the shielding comp is useful to you. But I do think there's a lot to be said for the utility, mobility, and combination of Rocket Belt. Obviously, when you finish it, and you get the penetration, or even like a Ludens, you finish it, you get the penetration, that's great. Here Leandries, I'm not a fan of fiddled Leandries unless it makes a lot of sense. See, I kind of wish I had it doesn't matter. Negative damage. Hey, Guardian actually did stuff. Let's actually check that for a second. I hate it. 356. That's your shield strength currently. Interesting. I mean, I'm still not a fan. We get the Dragon from the Kane. Looks like he's just going to int it. He does try. We have here the Samira going absolutely over the wall nuts. Does kill the Kane. Now we have a 3k gold lead. That gold lead was not in our favor a short while ago. So basically, this AoE fight here, we made a good play. Good job, Aurelian Soul. Still, you know, Kiana got kills. We made a good play here. A little later. Good rotation, twice good rotation in this situation. We managed to sneak up a dragon, which is very important. That third dragon's huge. If you've given up 2 dragons, and we don't really talk about it, but if you gave up 2 dragons in this situation, that third drake I think is crucial because you don't want to be playing for soul points and baron points too soon, specifically when you have a scaling comp or you're a scaling champion, you know what I mean? It's not always fun to have to make those decisions, like, oh, I guess they have to get baron because we need to stop soul. Not that it's necessarily a super ocean soul-y kind of situation, but honestly, mountain soul against hybrid damage comps are really valuable. Samira is going in and then gets destroyed, and then the galaxy swirling Aurelian Soul shows up. Okay. See, that's where I'm saying okay, because in my mind we have Rocket Belt. In my mind we have Rocket Belt, but we're able to get one. Kane goes back in. We're sitting here. He went into the Aurelian Soul. He isn't able to get the kill. We fear, we suck, we kill ourselves. The Kane is exiting too soon. Here, another fear activation into a silence. It's very, very good. This is, they don't really... This game is fun, in a bad way. There's a lot of, this is what high elo fiesta is. And so now we do finish the Crown of the Shadow Queen. Obviously, I didn't really finish my thought process on that. I always get distracted when I do that. Yeah, okay. You get raw AP, which is nice, and they don't actually have a lot of tanks, so the penetration passive isn't as valuable. Actually, a lot of tanks, I don't have any tanks. The penetration passive isn't as valuable, and honestly, this combination of items is what I like to run in Zara jungle quite frequently anyway. So, try it out. I do myself, with the combinations, prefer the Rockabelt combos. I will say it, even against a squishy team comp, magic penetration percentage-wise means you could do true damage at some point, specifically with Void plus Rockabelt. And if you don't need Void really, then the Shadow Queen, as we go in on the Shielder, what's this called? Shadow Flame, excuse me. Shadow Flame plus Rockabelt, it's enough penetration, right? For you to deal with squishies. But in this case, it's working very nicely, and I understand why. Because we have the Assassin Kayn, we have the Assassin Qiyana, and the high variance or just randomness of you being assassinated without a Zhonya's is something we can avoid with Crown of the Shadow Queen, and that's why it's a good item to have for mages. I understand why it can be frustrating, but in this case, the alternative is we just die. Okay, so she's out of position, gets spotted on a ward. We press the Predator button, she disengages, and we get rooted. And now we have to leave. Kayn cannot be slowed. Isn't that fun? Man, I do not like I do not like the Sire build. I know why people run it. I feel like in these situations I run Electrocute with Stopwatch and Cosmic and Ingenious Hunter, and then I will do my classic itemization. If it's full squishies, I'll look at maybe a Ludens or a Crown, and then of course you can have Zhonya's, you know, so that's just different strokes for different folks, as it were. Kayn once more goes in, gets feared, flees, sucked, healed, ults. Doesn't matter if we don't have the Zhonya's because you, sir, cannot match the sticks. In the meantime, Samira's just diving. Okay, I thought they were a dead father instead of dread father, which was slightly concerning for me. That's okay. Assassins battling each other on the backline. That's something also, when you have a fair team, and I think a lot of scaling junglers and players don't really focus on this aspect too much. When you have a scaling team or a scaling situation for yourself, and the enemy has an assassin that can absolutely destroy your days, and he's forced to deal with you, and he can't kill you, you just take him out of the fight, you know? You let your fed team win their fight, win their side of the battle, and you just keep the Kayn on yourself. You keep the Qiyana on yourself, and they can't deal with you because you beat them. It's an interesting twist on the whole classic sort of, how do I stop Kayn killing my team? Well, make him kill you, because if he doesn't, they lose, and if he can't kill you, then he dies. And they lose. That's what we want. We're not really focused on farming at this stage. We definitely could be looking a bit more for some farming, but we have such a big lead. We have our core itemization spikes. We're going into the Banshee's Veil, as you can see. We also have this. Healing reduced is only 318, so I think rushing that and delaying core itemization, unless you're fighting against a Soraka and maybe a healing jungler, is not really worth doing, given how infrequently he was fighting the Silas. If you follow my meaning. This is where being Rost is kind of useful. Oh dear. Oh dear. Mispositioned. Zyra also plants are activated. Kayn is in the backline. He should still fall, which he does. Nice dragon shot. Fude Ra gets the kill. Chasing in the backline is a Qiyana. She gets stunned. The Shen is now peeling. She hops the wall, gets killed anyway. Double kill for the dragon. Samira and the plants keep Giga zoning. 2 dead. Dragon is up. Do they have the HP points to contest? No, they do not. They're going to have to give up a second Mountain Dragon. And as I said, hybrid damage for the blue team. Losing a Mountain Soul and multiple mountains here, especially 4 stacking mountains, will be absolutely tragic and disgusting for them to face, especially given that, you know, there's enough squishy people. I mean, how are you going to deal with a Samira, with a Shen, with a Guardian Zyra, with multiple Mountain Dragons, with a shield bow? How do you plan on killing this? You know? And the Fiddle is the reason she gets fed. She's playing well now, but the Fiddle is the reason. 9-11, finally finished our Banshee's Veil. Baron is the next objective on the map, so one could argue the best scenario was to simply do the blue side. Pain in a jar. Fear. Silence. Sucky. He's just setting him up right now. He's just absolutely setting them up. That's why I love it. You look at your CC score at the end of games when you're Fiddlesticks. It's very fun. Very, very fun. Super high numbers sometimes, especially if you do a good job in these AoEs. Now again, what do we have? We're at Samira's at 1300s, which is what I'm looking at. We don't want to stay too long. Excuse me. I clicked away. Good FRG placement. Now we're full on assassin. That's what we are, ladies and gentlemen. Again, the Predator doesn't really do as much as you think, but it allows you to get to these scenarios. Again, he's out of position. Alt fear passive dead. Dead. There's just nothing you can do. This is good. I like this. And this is very conservative itemization. I kind of just wasn't thinking about the Crown of the Shattered Queen or rushing Shadow Flame. I do think this we could have easily gone for a second, but you know what? Maybe this is just something that saves your life a lot more. It is what it is, playstyles. I do think we could have potentially looked at doing blue sequence into red side control, because in theory, Samira and Zyra would have had to reset, and then you kind of match up with them. She takes the red, you take the Raptors. You can kind of set this up, but in the event that you don't, make sure you get to the scenario like he did and make the pick. Let's take this tower. We go for completion, stun, root, CC'd, stun, taunted, stunned. Poor Silas. Ain't nobody mind. Everybody enjoys a Silas that dies. Now she gets caught on the Predator knockup. Oh, just lucky enough. Just lucky enough. Oh man, the glacial zones of doom. Here comes Kane playing Assassin like he's never played Assassin in his life, just running front to back and then getting CC'd and choked out. What an idiot, unfortunate. Wish you could have a better example, but we don't. Okay, we can start up the Baron now. Kane decides to Prowler's Claw in and go for full ham. But because Samira has started up, when they show, just turn. Yeah, you have the lead, just turn. Although the damage is obscene, so the whole point of that, right, isn't necessarily to 100% get the dragon. It's to try and force a fight, sorry, the Baron, a fight that allows us to capitalize significantly. Goodbye. And there you go. Beautiful. Skirting the edges, being patient. Well played by everyone on the red team. They started it up, they killed the dude in the way. Someone's gonna tank this initially, please, Shen. Thank you very much. We'll suck and heal. Free Baron. It's interesting. There's not much rhyme or reason to this game, but as I said, I kind of like every now and then showing you a random game, because the randomness is something a lot of you will encounter in low elo, and in fact even Diamond, as you can see, and you just have to make sure you're pressing the Predator button, rotating, and making the right fights. Laying a good foundation. Even if early game is rough, you can still impact lanes and make good decisions, you know? Here, of course, we are now going into the Zhonya's. I think honestly, my personal preference here would have been to just not really focus on this at all. It's not really a big deal. I'd much rather have the Zhonya's, and then you don't die in some of those situations, but again, it is what it is. We have 1 top lane, 3 pushing mid lane, 2 pushing bot lane. If you feel like you can hold an assassinate, do so, but otherwise just be with your team. Like, there's no reason to necessarily be here, because if they reset now, Syndra's trolling though, so she has given up, which means our job is accomplished. Kiana's not obviously going to flank. We should technically be there with them. Let's see what happens. I mean, if our team handles it, again, it's just coin flip, right? Like, you are not involved in this. And that's what I'm trying to drive home to you. If your team does a good job, cool, thank you, team. But I'd always rather be here, just in case. You can, in theory, split push, but again, I'd still rather kind of just give them this and say, fine, we'll end the game. We'll dive the 2 people you have defending, and we'll just end the game. I'll call that bluff on that. There's no ways they're pushing to Nexus, because you've got Chen on the top side with his unleashed teleport and his ultimate. So I don't like the split push Fiddle, because they're only engaging in this situation because they know Fiddle isn't there, and you're not going to be able to get there. Your team is kind of far ahead at this stage, and they can't really kill anyone because of the 2 mountains. So, excuse me, I hit the microphone. If you're in this scenario, yes, you may do this, but understand that your team in a low elo game might not understand. Let the cannons do their job. He's going to try and wave clear with the W, but he doesn't really do much damage this game, does he? Does he? Dragon is available. Kiana's chasing top side. Syndra's on the top side. So, off we go. Samira joins us. Sucky, sucky, sucky. She's setting a trap. Let's kill that for a 3rd one. That's a lot. And now, because of this, we're out of position. She goes in, she dies. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The Fiddlesticks has removed himself from a game that, even though things didn't always go perfectly, he was always involved in, you know? We did kind of have to go back for the Zhonya's. Have to, but we would have maybe had a few things gone well, so what ifs, what ifs, what ifs. Either way, level 14 Kane, level 16 Fiddlesticks, waiting for the Samira, but clear the scan. Bot lane, Kane shows up inside a dragon. We hippity hoppity to the wall and say, good night, sweet prince. Very good. And now we can push bottom lane, so not the cleanest game, definitely. A messy game, but hopefully some pros and cons about a certain style of jungling, a little bit of a discussion about the atomization, Rockabout, Crown, Leandries, and so on. There is Fiddlesticks in Korea, one of the best, if not the best in Korea, used to run Leandries almost all the time. When there's a lot of HP in the game, it makes sense, but because of the fighter itemization being diversified, you might have fighters that, while they're classical fighters, they're not building the Starix gauge. They're building the more AD-focused items, and because of that, you don't really need Leandries much at all. Specifically not in this game. See, Zhonya saves you against the Syndra. Samir's gonna show up, so you just suck, heal, nothing they can do, and Samir will clean up. Perfect. That's why I like Zhonya's. That's why I like Rockabout. That combination within the Shadow Flame, the Void stuff, the Banshee's Veil, it just gives you... It gives you everything, you know what I mean? I like the Banshee's Veil 100%, but it just gives you everything. Obviously Shadow Flame whenever you need. Either way, those are my thoughts on it. Fiddlesticks do what they want a lot of the time. Interesting play style. Make sure your first clears are primed and fresh. Read the enemy jungler, rotate to lanes. Make sure you are fearing the right target. Pretty easy to do when you just hippity-hoppity a wall, but hope you enjoyed and learned something. Let me know what champions you might want to see next. Match history, as always, will be in the description. Bootcamp signups as well. Be on the lookout for a main channel video tomorrow, plus a very special gameplay review, just like one we've done recently, coming up on this channel tomorrow as well. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.